And there's a story of Imam Ahmad, who's a very famous Imam, one of the greatest Imams in Islam. He was so well known back in the day. And back then they didn't have TikTok, they didn't have Instagram, they didn't have these social media so that they could recognize his face, right? That people knew him, they heard of him, they knew of the amazing things he did, but they didn't know what he looked like. So one time he was traveling and he ended up in a masjid and he had to stay in that location until the next day. So what was his plan? His plan was to stay in the masjid overnight. The masjid keeper came along and he said, there's no sleeping here today. So he dragged him out of the masjid, locked the masjid up, and then he went home. And Imam Ahmad was just on the street. And across the road there was a baker that was still open late into the night, preparing his dough for the next day, and he sees this happen right in front of his eyes. So what does he do? He comes out. He goes up to Imam Ahmad and he says, you can come in and stay the night. It's a shame that they did that, but it's okay. You can find refuge in my place. So then he goes in to the bakery, he sits down, he prepares his bed, he does all of these things. And as he's doing all of that, he looks over to the baker. And whilst the baker is basically kneading the dough, he's constantly saying Astaghfirullah, 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 and preparing his bread like that, constantly repeating Istighfar over and over again. And Imam Ahmad, being this incredible Imam who knows Islam very well, he's very well understood, he knew that if anyone persists in doing Istighfar over and over again for a long period of time, there's no way that Allah has not blessed that individual. So Imam Ahmad, he looks at the baker and he says, how long have you been doing this for? He says, every night for years, every single night. And Imam Ahmad was shocked. He was like, have you noticed anything in your life? Have you seen anything that's happened that's come from Allah? And then the baker says, I noticed that Allah has answered every single one of my du'as except one. So Imam Ahmad says, what is it? And then he says, to see Imam Ahmad. And subhanAllah, the takeaway from that is that Allah literally got one of the greatest Imams and dragged him by his feet into the bakery of the baker just for him to meet Imam Ahmad and to answer that one dua that wasn't answered, subhanAllah. If you guys want any goodness in your life, it lies in Istighfar. If you want solutions to all your problems, it lies in Istighfar. If you want to become rich, it lies in Istighfar. If you want anything in life, it lies in Istighfar.